Carlos Enríquez, born in 1902 and died in 1957, was born in the provincial town of Zulueta, province of Las Villas, to a physician father and a housewife mother. He was raised in a bourgeois family environment where he was the only male child with 4 sisters. Enríquez always placed great importance to both his birthplace and childhood in provincial Zulueta. In the landscapes, life and customs of rural Cuba, he would find the central subjects of his art. Enríquez, together with the other vanguardia artists, belongs to that first generation of modernist painters of the vanguardia movement. He, with Amelia Peláez, with Lam, with Ponce, is one of the most original artists of this group. He studied at Candler College, an American Methodist private school. There, he made a great friendship with Marcelo Pogolotti, another member of this dozen artists of modernism in Cuba. And he went to Philadelphia to study art. He ended up in Pennsylvania at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, where he had a brief but productive, fruitful education. He returned to Havana and married the painter Alice Neal and stayed in Paris and Madrid for some time with her. By the time he returned to Cuba, he had been exposed to the great traditions of Western painting, as well as the latest manifestations of modern, in particular, Expressionism, Dadaism, and Surrealism. One of the principal subjects of Enríquez's art is music and Afro-Cuban subject matters, as we see in this painting from the 1950s. Enríquez was considered the top surrealist artist of this first generation vanguardia artists. He was also very fond of horses, and he would often paint horses, identifying himself with the animal as an alter ego. The most extensive and complete monograph of this artist, Enríquez, has been written by Professor Juan Martinez. I strongly recommend his book, Cuban Art and National Identity, to further investigate details in the life of Carlos Enríquez. Enríquez was, of course, included in the Cuban Painting Today exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art in New York in 1944, and his works were exhibited in 10 to 15 other museums in the United States. Fidelio Ponce de León was born in 1895 in Camagüey, Cuba, and he died in 1949 in Havana. He died from tuberculosis. He was an extraordinary artist who started his formal education again at San Alejandro Academy at 18 years of age. Due to his extreme poverty and propensity to alcoholism, he was not a disciplined attendant to classes, and mostly he was educated on his own, where he developed a unique brand of expressionism, possibly the only true expressionist of the first generation vanguardias. An expressionism that drew from his self-studies of El Greco, Rembrandt, and the chiaroscuro of Caravaggio. A deep sense of sadness also was expressed in his works, possibly discovered in the works of Modigliani. Ponce was the only one of the members of the Vanguardia that never traveled outside of Cuba. He seemed to pick up all of his knowledge of the arts by his personal analysis of printed images of these international masters, as he never had the opportunity to see these works in person. At the academy, when he attended, which was not often, Ponce was closer to his professor Leopoldo Romagnac, who evidently played a guiding role in the development of Ponce's personal style. The melancholy that is evident in Romagnac's works is also present in Ponce's creations. Due to his erratic life and the torturous demons of addiction, Ponce's body of artistic production is not as abundant as many of the other vanguardias. His works are not common to find. His most frequent subject matter were pious women, austere nuns, harsh priests, suffering Christs, immolated saints, and, in contrast to those figures that suffered most, their daily existence, such as poor, lost, and abandoned children, destitute women, the sick, and the old, as if religion was a form of unavoidable punishment in daily life. Ponce was different from his colleagues in many ways. Among others was the range of his palette and the way he applied pigment. He had a marked tendency for the whites, the ochres, and dark earth colors, in difference to the bright, intense, alive pigments of his contemporaries. He seemed oblivious to the tropicality of color and the light that surrounded him. He painted with the back of the brush, with a palette. He also painted with his own fingers. A measure of success and recognition reached Ponce at the end of his life. Pierre Loeb, the famous art gallerist and essayist, wrote a book where he was mentioned as one of the great artists of the 20th century, and eloquently compared Ponce to Wilfredo Lam in the Cuban art scenes. Alfred Barr, the director of the MoMA, had Ponce in the highest esteem and secured Ponce works for the Museum of Modern Art's permanent collection and the 1944 fundamental exhibition on Cuban art at that institution. Ponce's merits have continued to be recognized in spite of the fact that the art market has not benefited him with significant price valuations. He died poor in 1949, afflicted by tuberculosis, and he did paint to the very end.